This conference will now be recorded.
Good afternoon, everyone. I see at the moment we've only got a few people who've joined this webinar where I'm going to give a brief overview of the Practitioner Agile Quality Qualification. Now, this is about a 20 to 30 minute overview. So what I'd like, if it's possible for you to do, is if you can keep your microphones muted while I go through the presentation, and then we'll open them up for questions and discussion at the end of the session. So just a quick introduction. So good afternoon. My name is John Young. I'm a principal trainer at TSG Training. Horrible picture of me, but I never sit still close enough or short enough for people to take a decent photo. So I've been around in IT training and software quality training for over 20 years. And I'm involved in certification training and practical training. And in terms of certification training, I'm involved in iSQB and iSQI qualifications. So just to give you an overview of what I'm going to be talking over this afternoon. So I'm going to give you a brief overview of what the qualification is and some of its background. And I'll talk a little bit more about what we mean by a practitioner. So the particular characteristics that we're aiming at with this qualification. And then I'm going to take you through the key competencies that we cover in the course, and explain a little bit more about the emphasis of a practitioner course is very much on practical skills. So I'm going to talk to you a bit about the practical experiential learning approach that is adopted in this course. And being a certification course, there's an exam. So I'm going to talk to you a bit about the exam and the certification requirements. And then I'll open this up for questions. So I mentioned before, it's a 30-minute schedule. So I'm probably going to talk 15, 20 minutes and then open these questions. So the qualification itself, people qualification gives you some credentials. But unlike a lot of other quality-oriented courses and training, we're very much focusing in this course on practical competences. So it's less of, although we're talking about theory and good practice, the key thing here is we're talking about a qualification that actually demonstrates practical competences. So it's a 3-day course, and those 3 days include the actual exam. So you're going to come along to a course and be able to do the study, do the preparation. Obviously, we'll give you some homework, but you'll be doing the exam as all part of the same experience. And in doing that and getting you up to exam readiness, it's an intensive learning environment. We're going to work quite hard. And it's very much about team working. So there's very little individual work. And that team working is based on practical experiences and practical exercises, and very much focusing on the practical application of the key competences and skills that support agile delivery. So again, very much experience, very much about collaboration. So the whole intention of the course and the qualification is to allow people who've got agile experience, who are practitioners, to be able to increase the skill set, but also to demonstrate their competency with those skill sets. And as a result of doing that, what we're trying to do is help you be able to work in a more accelerated way, but working in an accelerated way to deliver the right quality. So it's very much about, and I'll talk about this later on in the presentation, it's about collaboration, working together, learning quickly. Now, we're in May 2020, so we're coming up to the first anniversary of the PAC, the Practitioner in Agile Quality Qualification. But the materials, the concepts, the ideas that we're putting across in these 3 days are based on a lot of what was covered in the previous Certified Agile Tester course, which I've been involved with from the start, delivering it, and the CAT qualification's been around since about 2010. But we're in a different place now as to where we were in 2010, where a lot of people who were getting involved in assessing and guaranteeing quality were testers from traditional projects. So what the PAC course does is it emphasizes a lot of the practical elements that we used to have in the old Certified Agile Tester course, and concentrates on those experiential practical elements of the course rather than just learning pure rote theory for the sake of it. And some of that is from feedback like minds and learn from each other's experiences and get that synergy that we get from working together in teams. So it's a practitioner course. So what do you mean by a practitioner? Seems to be a reasonable question to ask. So what we mean by practitioners are people who've, if they hadn't come into the experience, by the time they come into that experience, they've got significantly more than just practical, than theoretical knowledge. So in order to make this an intensive and short duration course, the expectations of the course are that people who join in have already got a reasonably good awareness and understanding of the basic Agile concepts, the basic Agile terminology, but also this is open to everybody who's going to be working in an Agile team, because quality is a team responsibility. But having said that, it's going to be helpful if you've got at least a basic understanding of testing terminology and the ability to be able to design tests. Because when it comes to the practical exercises, that's very much what you'll be doing. Is you're going to be working as a team, starting to understand some of the context and needs implied by user stories, and start to devise tests to start to find any shortcomings or limitations in our understanding. And in talking about quality, we're expecting people on the course to have at least an understanding of what we mean by functional and non-functional testing. So that if we are talking about quality, we can be a bit more precise. And also if we're talking about which things can we assess, then we've got an idea of which things are practical to do manually and which things may be better done by tools. So we're talking about Agile team practitioners. So we're aiming at anybody who's in an Agile delivery team, and that does include testers, but also quality assurance, QA engineers, developers, but also the business requirements side of things. So the business analysts, project managers who are involved in Agile teams, but it's also helpful for project managers who are going to work alongside Agile teams, and people who've worked in the facilitation and leadership roles, so team leaders, scrum masters, anybody who's going to be working collectively on a team. It's going to be really powerful if we've got an understanding of what we mean by quality, how we assess it, how we improve it. But the PAC course is not an Agile primer. So in order to be able to, for us to leverage this knowledge, then the prerequisites of the course if you've been working for up to 2 years on Agile projects, then I would hope that as a result of that experience, you've been hearing some of these, or you've seen some of these concepts in action. You've got familiarity. Another route into this, if you've not had the opportunity to work on Agile, can be to get some initial prior Agile training. So, for example, the iSQI's foundation level extension Agile tester, or if you've not come from a testing background, things like Scrum Master Pro and any other training programs that are out there. But we've just outlined here the two that are probably best aligned. So the intention is you're coming into the course with a grounding, a reasonable, at least understanding of what testing is trying to do, the difference between functional and non-functional, and you've got some familiarity with the kind of agile terminology. So, for example, I'm talking about things like sprint or iteration, and the things like stand-up meeting. You may know that as a Scrum meeting. So the idea is that we're not trying to do the basic indoctrination of this course. We're expanding from that knowledge to try to add to your capabilities. So what are we actually going to focus on in those 3 days? So we've got 6 competency areas that are very tied to Agile teams being able to deliver as efficiently and effectively as possible. So we're looking at the Agile mindset, and we're mainly looking here in terms of working together, being able to demonstrate and put into practice the soft skills that are appropriate to the Agile way of working. So we're not going to be indoctrinating you into the Agile manifesto principles. Again, that's the idea. As a practitioner, you've got that grounding. But what we're going to do is show and promote the application of those ideas in how we work together, how we think, how we take on board problems. Now, Agile's all about working quickly, so we're looking at working together to deliver faster. So what we're looking at here is optimization. So we're going to be working together inside the team exercises to find out where we can gain greater efficiencies. And one of the very, very powerful parts of Agile is being able to prioritize and maximizing the work. And this is a bit bizarre, but by maximizing the amount of work that we don't do. So doing the things that are most important. But if we want to get faster delivery, then we've got to build up our capabilities to be able to build quality into the product from the start. So what we're looking at is working together as a team, but being aware of our product quality objectives. So what have we got to do to be sure the product's right, to be sure the product's fit for purpose, and which of those objectives that we're related to in our teams from the development side and the designing side, from the testing and assurance side, and from the business confidence side. And we're looking at adding that in from very much from the start of the thought process of elaborating stories, and then working on them through the sprints and through the releases. And in doing that, to be able to build that quality in, we're emphasizing the good engineering principles. So much more on building the product right first time, and very much on maximizing business value, but doing it in a disciplined way. So starting to auditable and adaptable processes as much as we need them, and trying to minimize technical debt. So already in here, I'm using some Agile terminology, which we will talk about, but inside the sessions, we're talking about it hopefully from a basis of knowledge rather than from a basis of ignorance. So we're also very much about promoting the idea of testing continuously. So when we're talking about this building quality in and making sure we meet our quality objectives throughout the product life cycle, then we're looking at, particularly here, the plan, build, test multiple times a day. And doing that very much aligned on acceptance criteria and very much aligned on definitions of done. So we're going to be making sure in the experiential way of working that you're going to be working on multiple iterations of a product. And one of the other key competencies that Agile teams need is to be able to increase their scalability. So what we're looking at here is using the ideas around frequent and fast feedback to spot additional risks and address them, to spot changes, and the idea of fast improvement. So we're going to be using sprints, we're going to be using retrospectives at the end of sprints to try out improvements in subsequent sprints. So this is very much about practical application of theory rather than just giving you pure theoretical indoctrination. So if you can see here, we put on this graphic that inside each day, there's a mixture of key competency discussion. So it's not just lecture, it's very much about sharing our experiences and learning by putting things into practice. So it's surprising what you can pick up and build on even in a short period of 2.5 days learning if we focus and we use this iterative and incremental method. So you notice here every day has at least one practical experience built into it. So we start by giving you engineering principles, and then we put a practical exercise into place where we can look at team planning and team design, team building, and then we talk about how to get that faster. And then we go into working on some sprints where we're testing actual built software, and we build that in, and we're going to build on that by day 2, working on updates and incremental changes to that software, and the same into day 3. So we're looking at building in 2 practical exercises on the first day, a practical exercise on the second day, another practical exercise on the third day. So there's 4 practicals in there, and very much learning by doing. And the soft skills side, the Agile mindset is key. So we're using the practical sides of the exercises to put things to practice, but we're also using regular retrospectives at the end of each exercise to allow the team to get feedback. And the side of the trainer facilitator here is we're giving delegates feedback on their soft skills all the time. So if people are particularly finding aspects of the Agile mindset difficult to put into practice, then what we're doing in the classroom is helping in a constructive way point those point out the behaviors that aren't working well, but encouraging teams and encouraging individuals to change the way they look at how they interact with other people, and also getting teams to learn to support and encourage each other is very interesting. So usually within the 3 days, people actually build quite strong teams. So this practical experience learning, what we're doing inside those exercises is, and these are actual screenshots from practical sessions we've been using in the courses. So the idea is the team get to learn to plan together, assess the ideas of which quality attributes they have to focus on from the brief they get from the stories and the sprint objectives and the release objectives, and then get together, work together collaboratively. And in some of the exercises, we're going to help people get into the mindset of designers and developers as well as testers. So everyone gets a chance to try something they're not necessarily familiar with. And when we get into the sprints, it's back to that team planning. Now, we can't code in the same exercises in the timeframes we've got, but what we're giving people is information from designs that they've got to assimilate, devise a plan, and put it into practice as a group inside time boxes. So what we're doing there is really helping people to bolster up the exploratory testing skills, identifying charters, being more disciplined about the way they do their exploratory testing, and making good objective session notes. So there's this emphasis on discussion, a little bit of kind of extended theory, but straight into let's put it into practice, then repeat, then repeat, then repeat is very much the structure of the course. So having done that for 2.5 days, then there's a exam, and the exam is 2.5 hours, and it's significantly biased towards practical. So to get the practitioner in Agile quality qualification, you need to achieve 60% of the 100 credits that are available to you, and 90% of that is going to be based on practical exercises. So what you're required to do inside the course is work as a team. What you do, and we can't kind of build that through to the qualification because it doesn't really work. People aren't that great on the idea of collectively failing. Collective passes are great. So it's a so just in the question, does this course work well as a closed course for a team within an organization? Absolutely. We run these courses as public. We've also run these courses in-house, so that's not a problem. So I just saw a chat box up. Sorry, it drifted, pulled in my eyes. I said I'd answer questions at the end, and I've just broke my own discipline. So apologies for that. So the certification is practical. So what you're being required to do is complete quality-related tasks related to a product backlog and a release. So what you're going to be given is user stories, design information, for which you've got to formulate a plan, come up with test ideas, and hands-on test it. So we're going to give you inside that practical exam a number of increments to the product, and those will be seeded with defects, and the aim of the exercise is for you to identify quality problems, but also identify where quality criteria have been met. So looking to see which acceptance criteria have been passed, but also looking to be able to provide feedback through initial defect information on session sheets as to where the potential defects are. There is a scenario-based question, which is, well, a couple of questions which are based on not pure theory, but problems that could occur in a project. And very important here, you notice it's not a multiple choice exam. So the expectation is that you're answering the answers just like you would in a real problem. So it's a real problem in a real project. So we're talking about you've got to articulate your interpretation of the problem and potential solutions, rather than just trying to pick an answer off a list. So very much emphasis on the practical side of things. And the exam itself is paperless, so it's being run in a online environment. So you are basically getting software that you can test. You're making an electronic copies like people tend to do in practical senses. So you can have electronic session sheets to fill in. You can make your defect notes. You can make planning notes and create feedback. And the whole thing is run in an online environment. So you can complete tasks and submit at the end of the session, and get you'll get acknowledgement that you've completed the work, but as it's not a multiple choice exam, the actual marking of the assessment is being done by experienced practitioners. So there's more than one way to achieve the 90 credits available. No one's looking for a perfect answer. It's looking for practical application in the time that's available. It's also in showing, you're demonstrating in those practicals all those competencies, that you've got the agile mindset to reprioritize your work, that you can work at speed, you can be efficient, you can learn from the problems and feed those back through. So it's very much, as in, you could say it does what it says on the name. It's giving you, in the 2.5 days, practical experience, a safe space to try things out, and then a practical assessment. So if you achieve this qualification, then you have got a credible acknowledgement of your practical skills that work well for promoting yourself and for promoting your organizations. So just to wrap up and summarize, the Practitioner Agile qualification replaces the old Certified Agile Tester qualification, and is a shorter course. So if you know people who've done CAT, we're aiming to emphasize the same levels of practical competence, but we're aiming it purely at practitioners' experience. The exam is significantly shorter, and it's now emphasized primarily on the practical side of things. We're focusing on those 6 key competencies. The format of the online exam was something that wasn't available when the Certified Agile Tester qualification was going, so in this respect it's new. And it is very much not a primer, so there is an expectation and an assumption being made that if you join this course, you've got enough basic ideas behind testing, quality and agile teams, that you can start to pick up and put things into practice straight away. So just realized I was going to talk to 15 to 20 minutes. As usual with me, I find it hard to stop talking. So anybody got any questions? If you want to open your mics. Well, that's great. Hopefully it means that what I've been talking about has answered the key ideas and the key things that drew you to the webinar. So I'm going to say at this point, thanks very much for me joining up with us. Hope to see you on a course in the future. You might also be interested if you are somebody who's not come from a practical background, if you're looking at this as something you want to build up, then you might find the iSQI foundation level extension, Agile Tester, or the iSQI Scrum Master Pro courses are really good precursor courses. So thank you very much. If you've got any queries, you can look on our website, and hope to see you soon. Thank you very much.